All right, let's talk about something that's at the absolute core of any Apple app. How the heck does the screen layout actually work? Today, we're going to break down the old school way versus the new school way of designing apps. We're talking frames versus auto layout. Let's get right into it.
So, you ever really think about this? You pull up an app on your tiny iPhone mini, and everything just fits perfectly. Then you open that exact same app on a huge iPad Pro, and somehow it still looks great. It's not magic, right? It's all about solving one of the biggest headaches in app development today. You know, back in the day, life was easy for iOS developers. There was one iPhone, one screen size, that was it. But then came the iPad, then bigger iPhones, then the Plus models, the mini models, and suddenly it was just chaos. Developers were drowning in a sea of different screens, and the old way of building things just completely fell apart.
Okay, so to really get where we are now, we have to go back in time. Let's look at the very first tool developers had in their toolbox for building interfaces, the super manual approach of using frames.
Think of frame-based layout like you're painting by numbers, but way more rigid. You, the developer, have to tell every single little thing, every button, every piece of text, every image, exactly where it needs to go on the screen. It's all about absolute, fixed coordinates.
And it all boils down to just 4 numbers. The X value tells you how far from the left edge it should be, the Y tells you how far from the top, and then, of course, width and height define its exact size. You are literally drawing a box with numbers and sticking your button or image right inside it.
And the code itself really tells the whole story? See those numbers? 50, 100, 250? Those are hard-coded. They're absolute. It's like saying, put this button exactly 50 points from the left, 100 points from the top, and I don't care what happens. Make it 200 by 50. Period.
And this is precisely where the whole system just crumbles in the modern world. That button that looked perfect on an old iPhone, it's now lost in the top left corner of an iPad Pro. And what happens when the user rotates their phone? Well, the layout shatters, unless you write a ton of extra code to manually recalculate everything. It was a complete maintenance nightmare.
So, yeah, developers were crying out for a better way. Apple saw this mess and, thankfully, introduced a powerful modern solution. So now, let's enter the world of auto layout.
Auto layout just completely changes the game. Instead of telling a button its exact address, you describe its relationship to everything else around it. You're not a micromanager anymore. You're more like a city planner. You set the rules, and the system builds the city for you, perfectly.
And this code shows you the new philosophy perfectly. See? There are no hard-coded positions here. Instead, we're giving it rules to live by. We're saying things like, hey button, I want your center to always match the screen center horizontally, and always stay exactly 20 points up from the very bottom of the screen. The system then does all the heavy lifting and math for you.
Oh man, the benefits here are just huge. Your layout now just adapts to any screen size. It handles rotation perfectly, you don't have to do a thing. It works with stuff that's crucial today, like accessibility, letting text get bigger, and localization, because, you know, words in German can be way longer than in English. It just works.
Okay, so we've got the old rigid way and the new flexible way. Let's put them in the ring for a direct head-to-head showdown.
I mean, this table really says it all. Positioning? You're going from manual to relationship-based. Adaptability? From basically terrible to excellent. Rotation support? From a huge manual headache to completely automatic. And for all the modern stuff, like accessibility and just keeping your code clean, well, there's a pretty clear winner for almost every single case.
Look, if you walk away with just one thing today, let it be this. Frames are about giving absolute commands. Go to this exact spot. Auto layout is about setting relative rules. Always stay centered and stay near the bottom. One is rigid and brittle, the other is fluid and, honestly, a lot smarter. So, what's the bottom line? What does this all mean for someone actually building an app today? Let's nail down the final takeaway, the modern standard.
The source material we're pulling from really hits the nail on the head with this quote. If you're building something incredibly simple that will never, ever change, maybe frames are fine. But for anything that has to work in the real world, on all the devices people actually use, you need a system that can adapt.
And that's really the end of the story. For building apps in today's Apple ecosystem, auto layout is the default. It's the standard. It's the go-to tool that makes sure your app looks and feels great for every single user, no matter what device they're holding.
Which of course leads to one last really interesting question. If auto layout is so obviously better for building UIs, why didn't Apple just get rid of frames? Why are they still around?
Well, the answer gets into some really specific, high-performance edge cases, things like complex animations. But honestly, that's a deep dive for another day.